Number 3. Catherine Knight. On February 2000, John and Catherine had gotten into a physical fight which resulted in John getting stabbed on the chest. Frustrated with how far the fight got, he then kicked her out of the house. On February 29, soon after recovering, he went to the courthouse and took out a restraining order in an attempt to keep her away from both himself and his children. That same day after work, he told his co-workers that if he didn't return the next day, it would be because Catherine had murdered him. When John arrived home, he found out that Catherine had sent out his kids to a friend's house for a sleepover, but didn't think none weird of it since Catherine was being cool. They both watched TV, had sex, and went to sleep. At 6 a.m. the next day, his neighbor became concerned that John's car was still in the driveway, and when he didn't show up for work, his employer sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on John's window to wake him up, but soon after ran to alert the police after noticing blood on the front door. When the police arrived, they broke down the back door and discovered his bloody body laying on the floor right next to Catherine, who was passed out after taking a handful of pills. Catherine had stabbed John with a butcher's knife while he was sleeping. According to blood evidence, he woke up and tried to turn on the lights before attempting to escape while Catherine chased him through the house. He was able to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back into the hallway where he died after bleeding out. Several hours after John had died, Catherine decided to skin him and hung his skin from a meat hook dangling above the living room's entrance. She then decapitated John and cooked parts of his body, serving the meat with baked potatoes, pumpkin, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy. Next to the plates were notes with the names of each of his kids. She was really going to serve his body parts to his children for dinner. Police also found John's head in a pie with vegetables. The pie was still warm, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the early morning. That's dark. I can only imagine what his kids feel today, knowing how their dad died. Prior to committing these horrendous acts, Catherine had also wrote a letter covered in blood and meat chunks. The letter read, "Time got you back, Jonathan, for raping my daughter. You too, Beck, for Ross, for little Johnny. Now play with little Johnny's dick, John Price." Catherine was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Number 2. Antron Singleton, Big Lurch. Antron Singleton, better known by his stage name Big Lurch, is a former rapper and a member of the group Cosmic Slapchop. On April 10, 2002, the 24-year-old rapper murdered his 21-year-old roommate Tanisha inside an apartment they share in Los Angeles, California. Tanisha was found in her apartment by her friend. Her chest had been torn open and a 3-inch blade was found broken off in her shoulder. Teeth marks were found on her face and on her lungs, which had been torn from her chest. The friend testified that Antron was naked and covered in blood, standing on the street and staring at the sky. A medical examination performed on him shortly after his capture found human flesh in his stomach that belonged to Tanisha. It is believed that Antron was high on PCP during this attack. During trial, the defense argued that Antron was in a psychotic state due to his use of PCP the night before the murder. The court ruled that his intoxication and his claims of insanity were not satisfactory reasons for committing the crime. On November 7, 2003, Singleton was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 1. Angelo Mendoza. On April 28, 2009, a neighbor by the name Tanya said she heard loud yelling coming from Angelo's apartment. She said it seemed like Angelo and his wife were arguing. A few minutes later, her and another child decided to go check out what was happening. When she got close to the front door, she noticed it was open, and when she peeked inside, she saw little 4-year-old Angelo Jr. laying on the floor naked and unconscious. She said that his skin was hanging off his face and there was blood. That's when she ran to call police. When paramedics arrived, they quickly started working on little Angelo. When he finally woke up, his first words were, "My daddy ate my eyes." Little Angelo Jr. was then transferred to the Mercy Hospital for Children, where he was being treated for his injuries. That same day, a few locals from the apartment complex told authorities that a man in a wheelchair, who turned out to be Angelo, was in the backyard of a nearby vacant residence hacking his own legs with an axe. When the police approached Angelo, they stated that he seemed to be under the influence of PCP. Angelo was arrested and on February 10 pleaded guilty to aggravated mayhem, torture, and inflicted injury upon a child, but then was found not guilty by reasons of insanity.